Now we're going to take a look at Norman government and the Domesday Book, effectively further ways in which William secured his power. First of all, through the method of centralisation, putting himself at the centre of absolutely everything. Reduced the role of the earls, as we've mentioned earlier, replacing them with tenants-in-chief, who controlled less land, meaning they were less able to challenge the power of the king. William also controlled all land ownership, as we spoke about before with the relief system, the relief tax, and downsized earldoms to reduce the power of earls, even though this caused resentment towards the crown, towards William himself. So even though it angers earls, or tenants-in-chief as they become, that they had less land, there's nothing they can do about it because they have less land, they have less power, they have less influence. There's nothing they can do about it to challenge William. You do see them try to work together to revolt against William, as seen by the revolt of the Norman Earls in 1075, but it fails, and it shows even then the effectiveness of this land strategy, because three of them had to combine together to even mount anything like a challenge. William had purposefully subdivided the land to keep control, diluting each landowner's power and giving William control over them. William also uses regents very effectively, regents as in people who run the country when William is not there. Remembering William has two kingdoms to control, Normandy and England, so there will be times where he's not in one of those two places, so he needs someone he can trust in the country that he's not in. So regents act like standing kings while William went back to Normandy to boast of his successes to all his French mates. He had to use people that he trusted. Initially, this was Bishop Odo, but Odo basically proved himself to be somebody who was impulsive and kind of selfish and in it for himself. So later on in William's reign, he uses Lanfranc as regent instead, remembering it's Odo early on who acted as regent and contributed to the revolt of Edwin and Morcar. So later on, we see William using Lanfranc much more frequently as a regent because he shows himself to be someone William can trust and is an effective governor when William's not there. When William was in England, his wife would operate as regent in Normandy. He also introduced the forest laws, as we've discussed, which created revenue for the crown, money, wealth for the kingdom. 30% of England was classified as forest. The area of the forest was controlled by a sheriff, which helped to extend William's authority into rural areas. So William decides that some of this land in England is now forest, which means it's his land to hunt on and own, and he controls who can use it. This extends William's authority, and in order to enforce this law, he uses a sheriff. This means he has influence in rural areas, which previously may not have had a representative from the crown there. The sheriff also got to keep some of the revenue collected from criminals, so that incentivizes the sheriff to enforce forest laws effectively. Remembering in Norman England, the sheriffs are not well liked by the people. They are the king's enforcers, and they can make themselves rich by enacting or enforcing the king's law. These caused resentment, there you go, in society. It meant William had private forests for him and people who paid him. Peasants couldn't gather wood or fuel, or wood for fuel or food. Rules like if you were caught in the forest with a dog with sharpened claws or sharp claws, you could face a fine because it was believed you were being hunting on the king's land. This led to the social crime of poaching. So, sheriffs and the Royal Demesne, demesne as in domain, sheriffs and the Royal Domain. The authority of sheriffs grew during the reign of William the Conqueror, effectively becoming his enforcers. They answered to nobody except the king. So sheriffs are given more power under William, and basically their role is enforce my laws by hook or by crook, do what I've told you to do. And sheriffs, as we've said previously, could make a good life for themselves doing this. So they were hated in society because the more they enforced the king's law, the wealthier they got. The royal domain, or the king's private land, was administered by sheriffs too, and they made up 18% of land. The sheriffs were exploitative, and this caused resentment. Sheriffs were important men who were often tenants-in-chiefs and were the undisputed leader of the shires and communities. Sheriffs were responsible for enforcing the law, but they do lose some power to the church. They collected extra tax because sheriffs could keep some, and often executed land grabs, as in just stealing land from Anglo-Saxons. This unfairness and effectively a form of corruption oversaw a rise in resentment towards the taxman, the sheriff. Then, in 1086, we see William introduce the Domesday Book, effectively a precursor to a census. Also known as the Winchester Book, it was a giant report collected by William's soldiers. The information was written down by monks and was a hugely impressive administrative achievement. Effectively, it's a record of everybody and everything they own. It's called the Domesday Book because, much like the Doomsday in the Bible, it controls your fate. Just like God's judgment, what the book says goes. The book needed to be resurveyed every few years, eventually leading to the introduction of a census. So this is effectively a survey that William enforces or says needs to be carried out to ascertain, to find out how much everybody owns. The significance of this? Well, first off, its financial benefit to William. It's an easy to consult record of where William could get more money. Basically, if you have more money, I can tax you more. Possibly through a heavy geld tax. It also gave him an idea of what to charge for relief, as in how much is your land worth, so that when you die, I know how much I can sell it to the next person for, because William now knows how valuable each piece of land is. It also has legal significance, supported the idea of William being just and fair because he could easily solve disputes over stolen land. Just consult the Domesday Book. People are having a land dispute, who owns what, you can just look in the Domesday Book at who it belongs to according to the record. The book allowed people to have what they and their family owned set in stone, written down. That is now officially my land. It also had military significance, as the book could be used in preparation for a Viking invasion, which never actually happens, but what it does mean is William knows exactly how many knights he has at his disposal, how many able-bodied, healthy, fighting-age men are in the country. This allows William to know the size of his army.